those who do have a social media account have probably seen this before in their lifetime. I can definitely say that if you had social media for a long time, you've definitely seen like those depression accounts. I used to follow depression accounts even when I was just like in this deep hole of just, it was a really bad period of time in my life. But just seeing those sort of depression accounts, whether that's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, etc., any other social media platform there is, and just seeing this sort of aesthetic posts. You guys can't see me right now, but I put aesthetic in quotation marks. These aesthetic posts, videos, and edits, which often contain like very vivid and graphic images of suicide and self-harm scars and just people crying and just trying to make depression and mental health conditions in general this sort of beautiful yet again tragic thing. Trivialization can definitely be a strain on communication in general when talking about mental health and helping others with their mental health. So, for example, Tumblr in particular has allowed teenagers and young adults to share and create unfiltered posts about mental health conditions. And that sort of unrestrained, unfiltered posts about mental health conditions can both lead to a lot of the depression aesthetic posts that we talked about earlier, or just the mental health jokes or trivializing your own problems. It can also lead to people who need actual help, like professional help that is, and not receiving it because it's on a social media platform and people aren't going to take it as seriously. And I can assure you, those who struggle with their mental health can testify that it is not a beautiful thing, and it is, again, a sort of lifelong struggle. I don't know why I said again, I never said that. It is a life-changing and lifelong struggle that is such a overwhelming thing at times, such a traumatizing thing at times, and it in no way can be portrayed as beautiful because it is something that a lot of people go through. Yes, and it is a normal thing, but that does not mean that it should be held up to this high standard, held up to, or something that you want to reach because it's this tragically beautiful thing and you want to be aesthetic like you've seen in these depression posts on social media. And misreputation does not cause a lot of good. Misreputation actually does more harm than good. I was definitely somebody who romanticized mental health, and as much as I am ashamed to say it, I was. And when I actually started sort of experiencing these life-changing feelings and just these overwhelming feelings, it started to sink in that, wow, this is a serious thing, and this is not something that I would ever want to put on somebody else. And I can't believe I even romanticized it in a way, as if it was just something that was so, I guess, what's the word? Something that is so beautiful, something that I want for myself, something that I need to sort of fit in, I guess. And it can lead to just a lot of misdiagnosing and or incorrectly labeling what's actually going on. Faking mental health conditions are or is an issue that somebody does willy-nilly. I feel like it is just an issue that if somebody was per se faking a mental health condition, maybe they are really going through something, or maybe they really want somebody to help, or maybe they're angry about something. Maybe there is just a lot of background underneath that. And even so, I still feel as if those who sort of amplify their own mental health struggles are, again, going through something and really just want somebody to help them out. not because it'll give them this sort of boost of energy because everybody is looking at them and they just need this sort of attention. I do think there is a background behind it, and that there is a need to find themselves, per se. You can only research so much and you can only know so much from your own personal experience. You could think that you have depression, but really it's bipolar disorder, because they do have similar symptoms when somebody is in a depressive phase. When they have bipolar disorder, it is similar to depression itself because they share similarities, but you can also have manic symptoms, which you don't really know much about because you just feel really, again, manic. So you can think you have depression and actually have that bipolar disorder, or you can have bipolar disorder and think it's depression. That being said, you can lead to a lot of misdiagnosis, and if you go to a mental health professional and then say, oh yeah, I have depression, but when it's really bipolar disorder, you can receive incorrect treatment, and it overall will not be helpful to you or the mental health professional who is trying to help you. There is so much more to diagnoses that a quiz can't really tell you. Only if you're in constant contact with a mental health professional that can sort of track your behaviorisms and your symptoms and your signs. There's so much more to it. Mental health is very personal. It is a different experience for everyone. While there are similarities, there's definitely more different different experience for everybody that has a mental health condition. And also, I don't believe a lot of people do this, but some people do. Don't simply trust social media pages, because there can be a lot of false info. Social media is like your least reliable source, honestly. Even if you're like following this really up-to-date news Instagram page, there can still be false information, because really they're just trying to see what works in the algorithm. When you are researching that information from these verifiable websites, you should definitely reach out to a therapist or a mental health professional who can help you and try to talk you through this and see if you really do have this supposed mental health condition that you think you have. Because at the end of the day, you are one person. You are not this just mental health professional that you think you are because you've done this research online. And while it's a very good thing that you did a lot of research, you should still take it up with a therapist or mental health professional. So that's why it's definitely easy for misinformation to spread. And really, it's all about being careful with what you put out there. As a sort of audience that is viewing the media, you will be subjected to your own views and outlooks on the actual media. You will be impacted by the media, because that's just what we humans do. We believe what we see or hear. I cannot stress that enough. So yourself as a human being should be careful with what you put out there. Try to deal out information carefully. Try to be as just accurate as possible, and try to not spread as many lies. Try to stand from whatever point you stand with accurate information. And I also want to say that even though 13 Reasons Why has some very messed up notions about suicide, it doesn't necessarily put a lot of shame on the idea of suicide. We shouldn't shame it per se, because everybody has a reason of why they would consider or did commit suicide. We should never shame the people who have suicidal thoughts or have committed suicide, people who died due to suicide, because it's just a sort of thing people do when they are fed up with all of their sort of trauma and negative emotions and negative experiences